Hi there. It's December 20th. Can you believe Christmas is only 5 days away? I am almost ready. I have a few stocking stuffers to wrap and a couple more cookies to make. It's actually toffee and thumbprints. Thumbprints are my husband's favorite, and I make toffee every year, and then I'm done. So I actually can maybe relax a little bit. I'm on a tight deadline for Lady Tempts a Rogue, so I'll take Christmas Day off, but I will be writing right up till Christmas and then right afterwards too. And then on top of that, if you get my newsletter, you know that we just got our new travel trailer, and so I've been hauling everything out there and loading that up, and got some really fun collapsible bowls and a collapsible bucket. Discovered that I could also have gotten a collapsible measuring spoons and measuring cups, but I already had bought new ones, so that I won't be doing. Anyway, I thought I would chat a little bit about my progress on Lady Tempts a Rogue, which is book 7 in the Daughters of Desire Scandalous Ladies series. It is the last book that I have planned. I might do a novella afterwards. I haven't quite decided on that for sure yet, because sometimes anthology opportunities come up and I want to connect them to a current series. And for those of you, again, have you been following my videos, and if we chat on social media, or if you get my newsletters, you know that I have several anthologies coming up. I'm writing for 4 in 2023 and 1 in 2024 that I know of so far. I've actually got my whole writing schedule figured out through 2024 and into the beginning of 2025, and it's going to be a busy couple of years, but I'll get it done if I'm disciplined and get my writing word count in every day like I'm supposed to, which doesn't always happen, but most of the time it does. So Lady Tempts a Rogue, where am I? I'm about a third of the way through the book. I'm really loving the heroine. Her name is Trinity Abelthorn. She is perky, she is funny, she is confident, not wallflowerish necessarily, just kind of knows what her position in life is and has accepted it. She's on a ship right now, headed to Morocco. The hero is Devin Everingham, and you met him in one of the prior books, but just very briefly. You glimpsed him, he's a little bit of a rogue, and he's sort of in the process of being redeemed and reformed right now. He's decided that he needs to step up and stop being a rapscallion, and take up the mantle of his father, who was a successful businessman. And because of some meddling that his mother has done, he's decided that he needs to leave England for a bit of time too. And so he's on the same ship with Trinity. But Devin isn't a good sailor, he finds out. And because I get seasick, horribly seasick. I haven't been out in the ocean on a small boat. When I say small, I'm talking, 18, 20, 25 feet. Since right after my husband and I got married. I went out several times, got horribly sick every one of those times, and I won't go out on a small boat. I have been out on a cruise ship twice and did fine. Did get a little bit wobbly in the tummy a couple of times when the seas were pretty rough, but not like sick. And that's because I had a stateroom with a view. I just kind of learned what works for me. So I had to do all this research on seasickness to make sure I was going to be writing it correctly. Just those little details that when you guys read it, you may not know what goes into it. My husband never gets seasick. My daughter does. Sometimes she doesn't. Other times, neither one of my boys gets seasick. So as I was researching it, I discovered that seasickness afflicts women way more than it does men. It tends to be genetic, which go figure, right? I always attributed mine to the fact that when I was little, about 3-ish or 4-ish, my brother, and he didn't mean to hurt me, but way back in the day when you had metal spokes for little trucks, he accidentally poked me in the ear with a metal spoke, not an axle, I'm trying to say, and it probably ruptured my eardrum, but my parents were very young, very, very young parents, and didn't realize I was hurt as badly as I was. And so my inner ear has always been off. I've always been susceptible to car sickness and, like I said, seasickness. Anyway, that's a theory. We don't know for sure. Anyway, so I discovered that women are way more likely. It can be genetic. The average length of time people are sick is 3 days. If you're out on a ship, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I thought I was going to die just the hours that I was out there. And people I've talked to, like my daughter and my nephew Cole, he's the one that got bit by the shark in 2020 in Seaside. His girlfriend gets horribly sick too. And so to think that you have to be that sick for 3 days before you start feeling better, I'm like, oh my gosh. Anyway, and I have an author friend who has said that she spent a lot of time sailing around different parts of the world, and she says it's about 3 days for her, and then she's fine. So, the longest, some people, it can be 7 days, 12 days, just depends on the person, but the average is 3 days. Another reason why I'm not going out in the ocean in a small boat. And maybe that's the difference too, is the size of the ship. The ships, I'm talking about a clipper, a sailing clipper, and technology and all those things that we have today probably make the sailing a little bit smoother than it was. But back when you had sailing ships, you were at the mercy of the wind and in the sea. What else about Devon? So he does recover about day 3, and I won't tell you too much more about that because I don't want to give too much away in the story. But you have to think about what ships' cabins were like on sailing ships too. They weren't, luxurious cabins. I've had the chance to tour a couple of, one was a genuine ship used for sailing in the 1800s. A couple other were replicas, and those cabins were tiny. They were not luxurious. They were meant to be purposeful. You were to sleep in them. You were lucky if you had a washstand with a basin. A lot of times it was just a bucket, so bathing was not really an option unless you wanted to use the bucket. You can imagine what toileting was like. I won't go into all that. It was not meant to be comfortable, and that, of course, would have been in the lower class cabins. We got some of the bigger ships. You had different quality of cabins, but on a regular sailing ship that passengers went on, generally in the beginning, none of the cabins were very luxurious. The captain's cabin was the most luxurious, and even that, depending on the ship, wouldn't be what we would consider comfortable today. But people made do with what they had to make do with, right? The other thing I had to do quite a bit of studying on and researching was celestial navigation, which, if you don't understand, that is navigating by stars, because they did navigate by stars in 1818, which is when the story was set. And I've done research on that before for other books I've had where there's been characters on ships. But I want to take that a step further because Trinity, the heroine, is very interested in celestial navigation. She actually read a book about it. She's not an expert by any means, but she's really fascinated with the stars, and so she's also studied constellations. And I know where the Big Dipper is. I go outside my backyard here every night, and I can see the Big Dipper, the Big and the Small Dipper. I can see the Milky Way sometimes, but I really don't know anything else about other constellations. And so I had to, in order to be accurate, what hemispheres do you see what constellations in? What months are they visible in? And that was something I didn't realize, that they're not always visible. So for those people, who are astronomers and know all that stuff, there's a lot to learn. And also, picking the constellations out of all the stars, I looked at a couple of them, and I was like, I really struggled to pick the constellation out that I had written about in the story, and you'll read about that when you read the book. And finally, after looking at a couple of examples several times and using specific points to locate them, I could not go out in the sky, I'm sure, and find them. The Big Dipper I can, because I've been doing it since I was a kid, and it's very obvious to me. So kudos to those of you that study constellations and can identify them. And then I also had to talk about telescopes, different than what we have today, of course, as far as power and how they're used, and what the captain would have used for a telescope during the daytime, maybe to spot a ship in the distance, was not going to work at night. They did have a night telescope. It wasn't very powerful, but it did give them the ability to look at the stars, and so I talk a little bit about that in the story. It's not a focal point, so it's just kind of mentioned in passing, as are many things you will find when you're reading an author's story or a story. The author has put in a lot of little details they've had to research. Someone who's really, really good at that is Madeline Martin, if you've read her books, especially her The Librarian Spy and The Last Bookshop in London. Those are chock full of details that she has researched, and she just inserts them effortlessly into the story, but it wasn't effortless for her to find those facts out. So that being said, I am going to be plugging away on that story today. I'm going to run down actually to the town next door and volunteer at the rec center. We're making a bunch of cards for seniors. I guess we have to do 240 cards, so I'm going to help with that because my daughter is one of the specialists for the rec center, and I can't remember what her title is exactly, but that's one of the things that she oversees. After I go get a mani-pedi, because I have to have pretty nails for Christmas, makes such a big difference. And yes, I'm going to do bright red, I think. Maybe something different, but I'd probably do bright red. What else did I want to chat with you about? There was something else, and I can't remember. My mind went blank. If you haven't read the newsletter yet, it just came out. You can always subscribe. I've done something new for new subscribers. I'm not going to tell you what it is. If you did get my most recent newsletter, I did a video in that, and I'm going to be doing more of that. I had lots and lots and lots of positive response from the readers, so thank you for that. I appreciate that. I will continue to put up a post about once a week on YouTube telling you what my progress is in my current work in progress, which, as I just said, was Lady Tempts the Rogue. I'll post that same YouTube to Goodreads and to my reader group and my author Facebook page, just so that people that don't get into YouTube have a chance to see it too. As always, if you have questions, put them down in the comments. I hopefully will get back and answer them. I just found a comment. I felt really bad. A gal had made a comment a year ago on Goodreads, and I don't know how I've missed this section. I know that there's places you can ask questions, but I hadn't seen this before, and I'm in there maybe twice a week, just kind of keeping up on things. Anyway, she pointed out an error in one of my Highland Heather Romancing a Scot books, the last book in that series, a glaring error that got through multiple editors, multiple beta readers, multiple ARC reviewers, and I was like, oh my gosh. So I actually get the rights back to that book in May, so I've gone in and made a correction to that. So the new edition that comes out in May of 2023 will be corrected. My point being that I try to respond to your comments, especially if there's something that you have a question about. And if you want more information, more detailed information about the stories, where we're going next, people will sometimes ask me, is there going to be a sequel, a prequel, specific questions about characters? Will certain characters get their own stories? And so just put that in the comments and I will respond when I can. That's on YouTube, Goodreads, in my reader group on Facebook, which is Collette Cherise, and then on my Facebook author page, which is under Collette Cameron Historical Romances, I believe. I've changed it a couple of times, so I might not have that quite right. Oh, and also an invitation to you to go ahead and friend me on my new old Facebook account. I had to go into my personal Facebook account that I had actually deactivated several years ago because of the whole debacle that happened with my author account. And that's under my legal name, which is Wendy Collette Harrington. As I've said to you before, I write under pen name Collette Cameron. Collette is my middle name. Cameron is my maternal grandparents' name. And when I started teaching, when I started writing, I was still teaching, and so just to kind of keep those things separate. But I've been retired since 2016, and many people in my community, because it's a small community, know who I am, and it's never been a secret. So if you want to friend me on Facebook, look for Wendy Collette Harrington. That being said, I think that's all I wanted to talk to you about today. The lighting in here isn't really good. I'm in my living room, and the lighting is kind of wonky because it's really gray outside, and we're supposed to have freezing weather starting tomorrow and maybe snow by Friday, so we might have a white Christmas. We've had that very few times, maybe twice that I can remember living here. We've been in this house for 29 years. We're across the street for 3.5 years, maybe once there. We had hail there one time that was golf ball size hail. I've never seen hail that big since. All right, I've chatted long enough. Thank you for everyone who is subscribing to the YouTube channel. I've had several new subscribers. I love that. Appreciate it. And thank you for the people that emailed me about the new newsletter, the video there. I'm going to be doing more of that as well. And don't forget, there is a giveaway going on in that newsletter, and I have a special giveaway I'm going to be doing in January. I'll talk to you more about that. That's all for now. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will keep you updated on the progress. New covers. I've got an anthology cover I'm working on right now for really fun. Actually, I've told you there's multiple anthologies, but this is separate from well, I won't go into all that because I don't want to give too much away because some of it's kind of secretive right now. Okay? You guys have a good day. Bye-bye now.